Hey, it's Mel. I hope that you're doing well. In today's video, we're going to be we're going to be coughing. Apparently, my voice is going. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the real-life Sleeping Beauty of Okno. This story revolves around a woman named Carolina Olsen who fell into a deep sleep at age 14 and did not wake up until age 32. This is supposedly a true story and it is a bizarre case. Carolina Olsen was born in Sweden on the 29th of October, 1861 and grew up in an isolated cottage on the island of Okno. Carolina was a part of a large family consisting of Carolina, her mom and dad, and her 5 brothers. Carolina was the second oldest child and her dad worked as a fisherman. In 1875, Carolina was enrolled in a nearby school. Then one day on the 18th of February, 1876, as Carolina was making her way home, she was crossing a frozen river, fell through some ice and almost drowned. Luckily, she was pulled to safety. However, some sources say that Carolina tripped, hit her head and knocked out a tooth. On the 22nd of February, she was complaining about a toothache. Whatever the truth may be, whether she fell, hit her head and lost a tooth, or she almost drowned by falling through ice, either way she came home that day with a sore and bruised face. Her toothache was worse and she also experienced headaches. Carolina's mom and dad looked at her, told her to go to bed in hopes that she would feel better the next day when she had some rest. However, the next day Carolina did not wake up and remained that way for years. Carolina's parents were confused as to why she was not waking up, and they initially thought that their daughter's situation was the cause of witchcraft somehow. Bear in mind that it's 1875, around this time people were very superstitious. Carolina's parents were desperate to wake up their daughter, however they could not afford a doctor at the time, so they tried various different methods to try and wake her, such as pricking her with needles on her body and under her fingernails, and also putting a hot flame across her skin. However, Carolina did not respond to any of this. Carolina obviously could not consume food, so she was force-fed a glass of sugar water and milk, 2 drinks per day. Finally, the neighbours paid for a doctor to visit Carolina, and once the doctor arrived at Carolina's house to see her, he tried waking her but was unsuccessful, and the doctor came to a conclusion that Carolina was in a coma state. Though what caused the coma was anyone's guess. This specific doctor visited Carolina for a year. Meanwhile, other doctors from around the world made their way over to Okno to see Carolina and to give their opinion on what might be going on here. Strangely enough, even though Carolina remained asleep, her hair and fingernails did not grow. Her hair always seemed so clean, and despite only surviving on 2 drinks a day, she did not lose any weight. All her muscles seemed to be working fine, and she was aging extremely slowly. She seemed to have a very youthful look about her. In July 1882, 6 years later, Carolina still remained asleep. Her parents had her hospitalized in the city of Askeresham. Many doctors tried to wake up Carolina by using electroshock therapy, but it was no use and Carolina remained asleep. Doctors diagnosed Carolina with a severe neuropsychiatric disorder called paralytic dementia, but it's even unlikely that she genuinely suffered from this. Despite the doctor's guesses, no one was 100% sure. Carolina's family could do nothing but just hope that one day she would wake up. As the years continued and Carolina remained asleep, the world around her evolved, it changed, and family members passed away, including her mum and her brother. Her brother passed away in 1907. When Carolina's brother passed away, Carolina was spotted crying in her sleep. Carolina, on occasion, would toss and turn in her sleep, moan, cry, sometimes even sleepwalk, but never actually woke up. During this whole ordeal in 1904, Carolina's mum passed away. A full-time maid was hired to care for Carolina. This maid had brought sweets with her to Carolina's house. Now and then the maids began to notice that when she left the room and came back, some of the sweets would be missing. This put doubts in the maid's head on whether Carolina was actually asleep. It was also odd that Carolina was not aging normally. She was aging extremely slow. Carolina remained asleep until one day in 1908. On the 3rd of April, Carolina woke up without any medical treatment, nothing. She just suddenly woke up, looked at the room in confusion, and began crying. The maid walked in the room expecting her to just be crying or mumbling in her sleep, but was surprised to see Carolina sitting up in bed. The family was called into Carolina's room, and Carolina did not recognize her now grown-up brothers. However, Carolina remained calm and did not panic. The past few days of Carolina being awake, she did not say much and had a painful reaction to sunlight, but eventually Carolina did begin to talk again. Carolina had no memory after falling asleep, however she did remember the things that she was taught before falling asleep, such as reading and writing. While being asleep, the only thing that Carolina remembers is nightmares or dreams, and once she was awake, doctors examined her and were baffled because Carolina didn't seem to experience any negative side effects from being asleep for years. The only thing that Carolina really struggled with was adapting to the new world around her. The news got out about Carolina's story, and the media gave her the nickname the Sleeping Beauty of Ochno, but obviously there were skeptics of Carolina's story. In 1950, at age 88 on the 5th of April, Carolina passed away of a hemorrhage. Until Carolina's death in 1950, she insisted that what she went through was true. Strangely enough, there have been many cases such as Carolina's, not to the extreme extent as hers, but there have been cases of what is now known as Sleeping Beauty syndrome. Quite a fitting name. This is a real rare disorder that people go through. People who live with it can sleep up to days, weeks, even months. There is no definitive treatment for this disorder. The only cause of the disorder that I have found is a possible head injury. Other than that, I cannot explain to you why this happens and why it affects people differently. But it is believed that Carolina was the first person to suffer with this Sleeping Beauty syndrome. Anyway, that is the story of Carolina Olsen. I found this case to be quite interesting. As usual, I'll leave my Insta down below. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.